Hey everybody, welcome back to the We Are Pool Players podcast. I'm your co-host Greg Plester.
Here with Erik Hjorleifson.
And let's get into it. All right, so once again, not a lot happened. There's a few things we can go over. Definitely, I think we should cover the Gorse James Arnanis match. They had a megathon match as well. We can touch on the Midwest Open Billiards Championship. Huge tournament, lots of tournament. It's almost like I think you had said too. A good call out was it's almost like the Derby, right? Like it's it's got bank ring game, it's got 9 balls, got everything. So we'll touch on kind of where we're at with that, and you won a tournament, so we'll probably touch on that too. So we had right off the bat, we had Gorse and James Double D, and they played. What did they play? They played 9 ball, 10 ball, 8 ball, and 1 pocket.
So, and this was to benefit. There was benefits going towards Jeanette Lee as well. So it was a fundraising event, basically a charity event. I heard in some comments that they were betting $3,000 a set.
Nice.
So you can go down over the results in all the different disciplines. They didn't play in Roy's basement, even though it was produced by Roy. They played in the pool room that Roy goes to when he's not in the basement near his place in Virginia. I think it was like a 4.5-inch diamond. They both played really well from what I watched.
And just for anyone who doesn't know Roy's basement, look them up on Facebook. I'm sure everybody does who holds a cue stick. But if you don't, look them up on Facebook. Make sure you give them a like. Give them a follow. They do a lot of great things for pool. They got a lot of action happening. Their production value is pretty sharp. Like it's good. They're doing a lot of. I've talked to him a couple of times. He's got a real passion for it. So yeah, it's great to give them that support as well.
Well, and the nice thing about all Roy's streams as well is that they're free, right? And
yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, so you're welcome to support the streams, and anyone that supports the stream gets an entry into a draw for usually pretty good equipment. I don't know what it was exactly this time, but they always have good equipment on offer. They give something back to the people that support the players in the stream. You throw a ticket in there and maybe you get something back, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing they played was the 9 ball, right? And Gorse cleaned house 30-19. Again, guy's an animal, right? He's in the box constantly. That's all you see all over Facebook is how much he's playing. Then they played 10 ball. This was a little bit tighter, but he still got away with it 25-22. Now, before I get into the 8 ball, I remember watching the first probably 15 to 20 games, and early, like Gorse was behind in both sets, right? Like
I know he was behind the 10 ball. I didn't actually watch the 9 ball. Was he behind in the 9 ball as well? Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was early. And then because then when I found out the score after when he won, I was like, wow, like he was behind for a bit, I thought. So and then they played 8 ball, 21-17. So it was a decent one there. And then the 1 pocket. So race to 10. Gorse is up 7-1, running a clinic, and doesn't win another game. James wins 10-7. What kind of spin are you in 1 pocket when you can't? That's tough, eh? Like that's a tough one to never be able to get at it.
Yeah, I think it just shows that the break is not that big of an advantage between 2 good players playing 1 pocket, right? Like, I mean, I'd like to bet on the breaker most of the time. I'm sure there's stats on they might win 10% more of the games, but it's not like a rotation tournament where someone's down 7-1 and someone runs a 9 and then they win 10-7, right?
Yeah.
It's not like he just kept control of it. Each player beat each. I guess what I'm getting at is that someone broke serve 4 times and then the other person broke serve like 5 times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
That's a pretty incredible turn of events against, 2 world-class players and against Gorse, who's just constantly in the box. So, hats off to James on that one.
I think something to add there too is that, Gorse is definitely less experienced at 1 pocket, and Arnanis isn't really a known 1 pocket player either. But I think it's interesting to note some of these European players coming up and getting into one pocket a little
Yeah.
more. Like what Filler did with Chohan. I guess it's been about 6 months now. Filler coming out and beating Chohan. I mean, like that, no one thought it was possible,
Yeah.
and he did it, right? So it's like we'll see how this younger generation of European players and maybe some of the Taiwanese and Chinese will get into it as well. But One Pocket's a great game, especially for people that really understand pool, right?
Mhm.
I don't know if it's necessarily the answer for the next TV game or anything, but for people that understand pool, it's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, because I watched quite a bit of the Chip and Tony match a while back, and I remember watching it and thinking, I'm actually enjoying this. Like it's not boring. Like, but in the same breath, I think it's kind of like, well, golf's boring. Well, if you play it, it's not necessarily boring to watch. So I mean, and I play One Pocket. I enjoy the game. So to watch it and see the moves and the strategy, and I do this or I do, whatever. And then when they make great shots, just like, oh wow, what? So I think I don't know. I enjoy watching One Pocket more than I do break and run 9 ball. 10 ball is a little bit more entertaining. Same with 8 ball, but One Pocket's definitely I think far more enjoyable. But not everybody. It's not with the masses, that's for sure, right? So
It's an American game that was mainly played by Americans for a long time, and then the Filipinos got into it, and they've kind of taken over as call them maybe 5 of the top 10 players in the world are Filipinos, and now you're going to bring the Europeans in, and we'll see if they can kind of get into a dominating position in that game as well.
yeah. So let's get into the Midwest. So the Midwest Classic is happening right now, and as we had mentioned, it's kind of like the Derby of this year. So we've got 12,000 guaranteed added, 9 ball banks, One Pocket, 10 ball. There's a bank ring game that just finished. We'll touch on ladies only tournament, and 10 ball invitational. Is that 10 ball invitational on a Bigfoot, or is it just
No,
normal?
yeah. So they're the Banks ring game and the Banks in the One Pocket and the 10 ball is all on 9 foots, and
Yeah.
the 9 ball is on the bar table actually.
The the 9 ball is on a bar table.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
The 9 ball was more featured as, I think, more of an amateur event. I think all the top pros didn't even get into 9 ball for some reason. I think it's like kind of a lower entry that the pros could have entered, and some of them did. But
Oh
they were
okay.
more, yeah, they more focused on the Banks ring game and the 16-player 10 ball invitational,
Yeah.
and they're all playing in the Banks and they're all playing in the One Pocket. So
Yeah.
I think it's something about there's an all around prize. I wish I knew exactly how it went, but I want to say that the 9 ball will not have points towards the all around title.
Yeah. The
That's
all
why.
round is 1,000. So they get 1,000 with the all round, and yeah, I don't think the 9 balls in it because
Okay.
of the yeah. So right now we've completed the Banks ring game, and right now is I think we're at 16 now for top 16 for the bank pool. But in the Banks ring game, we had in third place Billy Thorpe. In second place, the ever popular Mike Leake. Sorry,
not
that's terrible.
not a household name, but
Not a household. Second, he's playing. He can bank a ball,
yeah.
and it's great. You know what? And all joking aside, that's fantastic to see not a household name get second in the bank ring game. Like there were monsters. If you didn't see the list of monsters, all the big bankers were in that, and he pulls off second. And then the winner was Dennis Ocorlo, who apparently just wins everything he plays. So no surprise there, I suppose. But back to Mike Leake. I think you had mentioned that it was rail banks, pay per rail.
So I guess if you made a 4 rail bank, it would count as 4 banks probably, or
That's right.
yeah, maybe just, yeah. I guess so. It's paid. It would be 4 units, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then they
Um,
just pay the chips.
yeah.
Did
So
they
I
do it
don't know if
like
I've
that?
ever actually seen a bank ring game like that. I've gambled like that, but I've never seen a bank like an organized ring game by the rail. I'm sure it's happened before, but I've never noticed it. Usually they just pay however the bank goes in, it's worth 1 bank.
That's right.
Um,
That's right. I mean, it's more entertaining for sure. Because when
Yeah,
you're playing rails, you might have some people stepping out, trying different
right.
shots. But yeah, like he might have again, we don't know, but he might have pulled off a couple, 3, 4 railers maybe or something, and just flew up to second place. But he might have just made clean banks. But at the end of the day, obviously, so Mike Leake's Fargo is, I think, 675. We looked it up. So you play pool. Like, he's a good player. And but good for him. Congratulations, Mike. I hope you hear this. And yeah, good job.
The general thing about ring games too is that you need to get a shot. I'd say you're more likely to get a shot in banks, but like if you play a ring 10 ball game, you might not get a shot for like 2 rounds around, right?
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, does one player start with a hanger and then he's able to run 4? And for whatever reason, does another player have to like play an intricate bank and then he's out in one round, right? And the
Yeah.
thing about this one too, I was actually wondering if there was more than one table. I have to assume there was, because there was actually 12 players in the game.
Yeah, I
So
saw
they
that.
so they might have started with like 2 tables of 6. And regardless, it's a nice accomplishment for a player going up against pros. Basically, he's
Yeah.
not a pro, right? So
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah,
it's
great
interesting.
job. And now we're in the bank pool, and we have some great players there. We've got Dennis DeLuna, Johnny Mora's there, John Mora, Gomez, Thorpe, and Tencio, Hennessy, Gorse, Aranis. I mean, there's a lot of great players in the bank pool tournament. I mean, Dennis is going to be a beast. John Mora's obviously very deadly as banks. And then we've got Omar Alashin, and he got fourth, didn't he, in the bank pool ring game?
He did, and I want to say he got second in the Derby City Banks last year. He's a strong
Oh, he
banker.
did.
Yeah,
Well, that's
he's a
right.
known strong banker, and whenever he goes to the Derby, he's always betting like big against some of the best bankers in the world. I think
Oh,
they edge him out, but I think he wins sometimes too.
nice.
So
Well, he's
yeah.
against Billy in the final 8, so that'll be a good match. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna go out and I'm just gonna say it. I think John Mora wins. I'm calling John Mora to win it,
Oh,
and
I'm always hoping for him. He's a friend of mine.
that's
To
right.
me, I think Billy's the best banker in the world,
Do
and
you
just to get
really?
a
Eh?
yeah, and just and Arcolo's right up there too, and
Hmm.
Alex Pagulayan. Um, and John Brumback's in the mix.
Yeah.
You got 10 guys. Justin Hall's right in the mix too. We mentioned that Billy a couple weeks ago. We mentioned that Billy got on with Lomax cues. I don't know if a better offer came along, or if that wasn't a done deal when we announced that. But he actually got on with Mucci, so he's on with a
Yeah.
major cue sponsor now. Yeah, so like yeah, I look for him to get back on track now.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
he's
so
playing in the championship league next week.
yeah. Something of note, Mike Leake is still in the tournament, the bank pool tournament. He's on the B side, but he's still there. So, good luck, Mike. We're your new fan club. So yeah. So anyway, so that's happening right now. So, go to Midwest Billiards, Billiard Expo. Search it up. It's on Facebook. It's got all the links there if you want to follow it. So we should probably touch on the fact that you won a pretty important tournament this weekend, especially after not playing in months. None of us playing. You came out of the gates and scooped a tough field too.
Well, yeah, it was nice because we've been pretty heavily locked down in Ontario for about a year now. The first 4 months, the pool rooms were totally closed. In the 8 months since, I'd say I've maybe played about 5 tournaments, but this one is the biggest one by far that I've played in the last year. And it was enough prize. It was a $500 entry, and it was enough prize money that I really got into my old practice routine and really tried to make things happen. And you know what? It's the same story as a lot of tournaments that you win. I got lucky in a couple spots. I was stuck 14-12 in the final. I came back to 15-14. I won 15-13 in the quarterfinals. So there, a couple spots where things could have gone another way. But the point was that, you know, it, I feel like I was prepared enough that it could have not even have got to that. And when it, you want to go in feeling like that, but when it does, you want to be able to deal with, or at least give yourself the best chance to hold on, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what happened. But yeah, it's a nice series that they've started in Ontario. It's $500 entry, big entry. We had one in December. Alex Pagulayan was actually in town. He won the first one. Um, and this one was billed at 32 players. It's kind of based on a qualifier format, and I think really the reason why we're talking about it a little bit, because I think it's something interesting that players in other areas can execute as well, or tournament directors or people that are interested in promoting pool. The spirit of this tour is that about half the players will be qualified. Rooms will run qualifiers to qualify players.
Yeah.
Because of pandemic restrictions in the area recently, I'd say we qualified about 8 of the 21 players that entered the tournament this time. The goal
Yeah.
was to qualify about 16. He still went ahead with the tournament and he got 21 players out of a 32 player full field. And you know what? It's just a nice opportunity for everyone to compete on an even playing field, and for all the best players to get out and to have some good prize money too. So
That's right.
if anyone's interested in really what we've done up here, you're welcome to message me and I can direct you to those tournament directors, or I can fill you in quickly about what we're doing. But yeah, it's encouraging. It's good to be to have events that pay well and that all the best players are at.
It
Jason
echoes.
Platt was in town.
Yeah, it echoes a professional tour stop is what it echoes. Yeah, you played Jason in the semifinals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's been off for like a year. This was actually his first tournament back in 1 year. I've played 5 or 6. This was his first one. So, he played well. I played well against him. I ended up coming out ahead, but he finished third. They played off. It was a single knockout, but they played off in the third, fourth place match, and he won the third place match. So, yeah.
Nice. And it's funny because we want to get into some sort of insight into the professional player's mind, be it yourself. And I think we talked about it the other day, is that's a good transition of, let's see if we can get into like, what does it take for you to, to be mentally ready, to be physically ready? Like what does it look like in a pro's eyes and a pro's mind when, you go to compete in a tournament on a big weekend?
Yeah, so like this one for me, and I hate to say it, but if I play in a $500 or $1,000 first prize tournament, I wouldn't probably prepare the same way as I did for as much prize money as there was in this one. But it came in my mind as like I want to set it as a goal to prepare properly and give myself the best chance to win. And it's something that I've done hundreds of times in the past, but it's something that I haven't done in a year. And it kind of went like this in my mind. And this is just, this is for everyone to kind of give you an idea of what could possibly help you when you're preparing for a tournament. So what I usually do is, and I'll just start with this. Here's another kind of odd statement, but like, I don't really like practicing on my own. And some people will be like, what are you even talking about? Well, I just don't. I never have. I've done it. Obviously, I've done it for thousands of hours, but I prefer actually playing people and putting myself, like playing good players that are at least close to my level, and putting myself in competitive situations where, like for example, this week, I only played sets with my friend who's about a 700 Fargo, and I beat him the majority of sets. He actually beat me a couple. So I got the feeling of, okay, well, yeah, like what do I have to do to avoid those losses?
Mm-hmm.
And many of the sets were close, so now I get the feeling of, okay, and we're mirroring the exact rules of the tournament. So this was like a 9 on the spot magic rack tournament, break from anywhere. Those are the rules we're playing. We're playing the exact race that the tournament is going to be.
You really enjoy playing against somebody when you're practicing. Does it matter? And I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but just so we can get out there, does it matter their speed of how fast they run? Like, does it matter how good they are?
Well, I mean, I would say someone that can at least challenge you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The biggest thing about me for me about playing other players is that, like the entirety of the game comes up when you're actually playing someone else. Like,
Yeah.
sure, you can play safe against yourself. Sure, you can kick balls against yourself, but it's just, to me, it's more realistic, the variety of situations that come up when you're playing other people, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm talking about is basically playing safe more, kicking more, but also going in with a goal to break and run as many racks as you can under that format.
Yeah, I think that's a big piece of the puzzle that not every pool player is thinking about, is that mental toughness that goes beyond just, keep it together, play my best game, enjoy my, like, it's like, I'm going to give this guy a donut. Like, he's like, I need to run racks. And really kind of amp yourself up. Is that something that you think you do?
Oh, definitely. So I'm at a level where I can break and run racks. So I'm trying to reproduce basically the breaking rules, the exact break I want to use, and get my break and run percentage as high as I can. That's my level, right?
Yeah.
If you're at a different level where you only break and run 10% of your racks at most ever, it's all different levels of that. It's like, how often can you run out from the 1? How often can you run out from the 3? Whatever it is. But the fact is, a big key to winning tournaments is that you need to be offensive. At a certain point, you need to be offensive, right? Like, you need to play the percentage shots. You need to have a full rounded game. I'm not saying it's not about playing safe, but especially once you get into the higher levels, that your break and run percentage has to be up there. That's how you gain an edge on people, right? If you're not breaking and running racks, anything can happen in that game. And that's pretty much what happened to me in the final. Like, I didn't play much worse, and I didn't break much worse. I just didn't get as many shots off the break.
Yeah.
And he played well. I'm not taking anything away from him by any means. But in the other rounds, my break and run percentage was higher, so the scores weren't as close, right?
Yeah. Wasn't one match? Didn't one match you broke and ran like 50% of your racks?
A couple of them actually, but in one match I ran a 7 and about 11 of the 15 overall.
Yeah, like that's certainly an edge.
But it's an offensive tournament, right? Like,
yeah,
we're
absolutely.
playing on big pockets and we're playing 9-ball, so it's like, it's not something that's unachievable if you don't put your mind to it and you're at a certain level, right?
Yeah.
But another thing we did too was, and this has always been big for me, is really trying to replicate the conditions that will be at the tournament. So the most ideal is that you actually practice at the room that the tournament's at. That's obvious, right?
Yeah.
If you're able to do that, you go practice at that room. You practice the breaking rules that they have. You play sets against people at the same race that the tournament's going to be at. But in this case, the room that we went, or the room that we were playing at, was about an hour and 20 minutes away from my practice partner and I, and we still drove to another room like half an hour away to play on the same brand of tables. And one day, and we're going to pool rooms that kind of have, they have good balls, but they have like older, kind of balls for the public. Like, they're Aramith balls, right? But one day we even went as far as saying, like, can we have like your best set of balls? Like, can we have like the Dermith balls? Because we know that we're going to be playing with Super Aramith Pros on the weekend, which are like very similar to Dermiths. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think just taking little edges like that, and that's what I did all week, right? And it's like, you know what? That's not always going to work out by any means, but to me, that's what it means to be prepared, right?
To put it kind of in a snapshot, replicate the rules of the tournament, like play the right game. 2, put in the time, ideally play somebody that can compete, that you need to compete against. And then the other one would be the conditions, replicate, right? Replicate the balls, the table, the pockets, try to get it in, moreover, try to play in the room you're playing in. But really, so when you're practicing that week before, those 3 points, just so you can get to that speed. And, aside from running racks, at the very least, be as consistent as your level dictates. So as you had said, you run 1 out of 10 racks. Well, make sure you're running 1 out of 10 racks, right? Work on the things that potentially you need to work on from the last outing, right? Because there's definitely a reflection point that I think anyway of any tournament, something when you walk away going, what didn't I do so well there? Like, what's one thing I can take away to go, like, I can get better at that, right? But now what about day of? So now it's day of.
Well, I think before I even get in the room, I have a big breakfast because I know I'm not going to eat heavy for the rest of the day.
No, that's right.
That's it. Like for me personally, some people might need to eat throughout the day. I'm not a nutritionist or anything, but I definitely don't recommend eating heavily throughout the day. Or I've found that I don't like eating heavily when I'm at a tournament. So I'll have a big breakfast, right? Like enough that I'm not going to get hungry until 4 or 5 o'clock, and then maybe have something small around that time, right?
Yeah, I mean, any tournament I'm in, any tournament, sorry, we're both in, all the top players, they're not eating. Like, they're not crushing the nacho bar, right? Like,
yeah, but make sure you have a big enough breakfast that you can have enough energy for the day. Right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, once the tournament starts, it's kind of just like, hopefully all your preparation falls into place. Like there's more to it than that, but say that everyone would have to do this, but I kind of like try to stay on like by myself a little more. Do you know what I mean? Of course you greet everyone. Of course you're cordial. It's not about that, but it's more about just kind of staying within yourself, like keeping your energy to yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
I know exactly what you mean.
that I do personally, and that goes along with people's personality. And I'm not saying that I'm, antisocial or anything like that. It's not about that, but it's more just about let's stay focused on the task. You know what I mean? You
I'm completely opposite, but yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with being the opposite. I mean, you look at guys like Alex Pagulayan, he's going 100 miles an hour the whole time he's in the pool room. But I think I don't know. You have to figure out how you're going to be the most calm in the pool room.
Okay, so you've had a bite to eat. You've got your calories for the day. You're mindful of kind of your space, and you're keeping your mind right. So now you're getting to your first match. Do you have anything kind of going through your mind, or is it more okay? Let's get to work.
Yeah, so like it's go time basically. You're ready to go. You're trying to get the lead. You're trying to do the things that you do in every match. But I think you have to be ready for anything to happen. Like even for example, this weekend in the first round, maybe I was just a bit nervous. Like not really, but I only made a couple mistakes, and I'm down 5-1 all of a sudden in the first round, right? And it's like it's not the way I expected it to start. And the fact is, like, it's pool. Like things like this are going to happen, right? But if you believe in your preparation, you believe in the level that you are supposed to be able to produce in that weekend, it's not really about the score. In a longer race, right? Like there can be tricky spots where, you're stuck 4-1 in a race to 5. Okay, well, yeah, you are an underdog. Like it's a fact, but it's also a fact that you're not giving up at 4-1. Do you know what I mean? And the 5-1. I wasn't too worried about it. I'm just thinking, okay, well, next offensive chance I get, I'm going to make the most of it, and it ended up working out, right? But it's just over the course of a tournament. I mean, we all know this. Like, so many things happen, right? And to think it's going to be like just a walk in the park, that might happen like 1 out of every 10 tournaments you win. You know what I mean? Like it's stuff happens, right? So it's like, I think just being ready for everything, not ever giving up, all the cliches, but it's like, to me, a lot of it's in the preparation.
Okay, so now you're done. Now, this weekend, you won the tournament, so not sure what you're really reflecting on other than good job for me. I won. But, if you don't win, do you ever, do you leave the tournament going, okay, that match, this match, my safeties or my break or something? Like, do you categorize it? Do you break it down at all? And
Here and there, but I'm just hoping that I gain confidence. You can gain confidence without winning. Like winning is going to give you the most confidence, but it's like, if you came out and you played well and you battled your hardest, you know, you're expecting you can do that again, right? And that's the idea, kind of, I think.
well, it's great that we were able to give back a little bit with the podcast today. And I say we loosely; it was mostly you giving the insight on, how does a professional pool player prepare for a tournament? And I think you really emphasize the preparedness of it. Really mimicking and playing against a competitor and playing in the right setting and really being ready for the tournament. And then day of the tournament was, I think you'd said something like, have a meal in the morning, get the energy in, be mindful of your space, and then when you're playing somebody, be prepared for anything to happen from any angle and just believe in your practice. So, and, it's funny because, when we talk about the balance of this, the balance of the feel of the game versus the mechanics, to really get that confidence is believing in the mechanics. So, it's really cool. And then that you reflect once in a while, right? Of building that confidence, right? So, great part. I hope a lot of people got something out of that. I know I sure did. All right, we're coming up to just past the 30-minute mark, so I think we're going to sign off on this one. So I'm your host, your co-host, Greg Plester.
Here with Erik Hjorleifson.
And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Okay, thanks for listening. Talk to you next week.
And you're prepared, and you get to the tournament.
Yeah.
Okay, you're up. You want me to stop? No. Well, I go get a shot, and then
I thought you were gonna say something else.
No, it's not. Okay, let's do that again. Just a sec. Yeah. By the way, I think we found our blooper reel. Okay, You ready? Yeah.